The tape measure slipped from my fingers, clattering against the dry grass under the relentless sun. I was on my knees, inches from her, charting the edge of her yard. The reclusive client I'd only known through emails. Sweat stung my eyes as I reached for it, my hand brushing the gravel near her boot. That's when I saw it. A faded tattoo peeking from her rolled sleeve. Intertwined vines and symbols, intimate and old. She yanked her arm back, eyes narrowing. My professional line blurred right there, pulling me into her guarded silence. Heart pounding, questions flooded. Who marked her like that? What story hid under her quiet? The gravel road stretched out like a scar through the fields, dust kicking up behind my truck tires. I'd left the city that morning, the hum of traffic fading into this wide, empty quiet. My hands gripped the wheel tighter than needed, the map on the seat showing a remote plot I'd redesign into something alive. Landscape architecture paid the bills, but out here, it felt like stepping into another world. The air through the open window carried earth and heat, no exhaust fumes to cut it. I pulled up to the weathered house, its paint chipped like old skin, porch sagging under years. She emerged from the door before I could knock, an older woman, maybe late 50s, broad-shouldered in faded flannel and jeans worn at the knees. Her hair, gray-streaked brown, was pulled back tight, and her eyes, sharp as river stones, assessed me from the steps. No smile, just a nod. "You're the architect," she said, voice low, like the ground itself speaking. "Eliana," I replied, extending my hand. She took it briefly, her grip calloused, rough from work I could only guess at. Her name was Harlan, from the contract. Simple, fitting this place. We stood there a beat, the sun baking the dirt between us. I felt small, my city polish out of place amid the unkempt yard, wild grasses swallowing the fence line. "Let's walk the perimeter," I suggested, pulling out my notebook and measuring wheel. She fell in step beside me, not too close, her boots crunching gravel. I noted the soil first, loamy but dry, slopes gentle toward a distant river bend. The yard sprawled, untamed, with overgrown shrubs hiding what might be flower beds long abandoned. I kept distance, professional, jotting elevations and sun exposure, but her presence pressed in. The smell hit me then, dry earth baked hard, mixed with something sharper, silt from the nearby water, carried on a faint breeze. As we rounded a corner, her flannel shirt brushed my arm, the fabric warm, threads soft from washing. I stepped back, quick, heat rising in my cheeks. Why did that feel like too much? I was here for lines on paper, not the way her shadow fell long across the ground. She didn't notice, or pretended not. "Soil's good for natives," she said, clipping the words. "But keep it simple. Privacy matters." Her eyes flicked to the road, then away, like guarding more than the yard. I nodded, sketching a rough fence line, but inside, doubt crept. City jobs were concrete and clients chatty. This felt raw, her quiet domain swallowing me. Was I ready to reshape something so lived in, so hers? We moved on, my wheel clicking distances, her steps measured. The sun climbed, sweat trickling down my back, shirt sticking. She pointed out a slope where water pooled after rain, voice warming a touch as she described the river's old floods. Yet distance held, me asking questions, her answering short, eyes always scanning the horizon. I felt the pull of it all, this isolation echoing my own hidden edges, the desires I buried under blueprints back home. By afternoon, we'd circled back, my notes filled with sketches of paths and beds. The tattoo hadn't shown yet, that came later, but her guarded stance lingered. As I packed my tools, she stood on the porch, arms crossed. "Polite nod," I said, forcing a smile. "I'll send prelims soon." She nodded back, eyes softening just a fraction. Driving away, dust settling, that brush of flannel replayed. Out of place, yes, but drawn in. Her world stuck, quiet questions forming in the empty miles. I came back the next week, the road familiar now, dust settling like a routine. My truck rattled over the gravel, engine cutting through the quiet fields. Harlan was on the porch again, rocking chair creaking under her weight, a mug steaming in her hand. She didn't wave, just watched as I unloaded my tools. Stakes, string lines, the sketch pad with prelims I'd printed. The sun hung lower this time, casting long shadows across the yard, turning the wild grasses golden. We started with the garden beds, mapping their outlines. I drove stakes into the soft earth, stringing lines to mark potential curves. "This area is south-facing," I said, kneeling to test the soil with my fingers. It crumbled, warm and dry. "Good for sun lovers. What do you think? Lavender, maybe? Or something drought-tolerant?" She stepped closer, boots thudding soft, and peered at the layout. Her answers came clipped, but there was warmth in them, like sun breaking through clouds. "Lavender's fine. Grows wild by the river." Her voice carried that low timbre, pulling me in despite myself. I observed her routine from the corner of my eye. Every afternoon, she'd settle on the porch after chores, tending a small vegetable patch out back or hauling water from the well. Silent, but present, her gaze following my movements as I sketched. Sometimes she'd rise, walk the fence line, pausing to adjust a post. It felt like she was measuring me too, this city woman with her precise tools invading her space. I caught the scent again, faint silt from the river, clinging to her skin like a memory. Her hands, when she pointed out a shady spot under the oaks, were calloused, nails short and dirt crescented. They spoke of years here, alone, shaping this land without help. Week 3. The rhythm deepened. I'd arrive mid-morning, coffee still hot in my thermos, and we'd walk the beds together. "Sun patterns shift here afternoon," I noted one day, shading a diagram. "Blocks the west light. Perfect for ferns or hostas." She nodded, leaning over my shoulder, her breath steady. "Used to grow ferns by the bend. They liked the damp." Clipped words, but they warmed, revealing slivers of her world. I collected these details like seeds. The way her flannel sleeves rode up when she gestured, exposing forearms tanned and veined. The silt scent stronger after rain, mixing with earth on her clothes. It grounded me, this place, pulling at edges I'd kept buried in the city. My curiosity grew with each visit. Why this isolation? The house stood alone, no neighbors in sight, just the river's distant murmur. It echoed my own hidden desires, the ones I'd pushed down amid deadlines and empty apartments, the longing for something real, unspoken. Out here, with Harlan's quiet presence, those feelings stirred. I'd sketch at night back home, her image creeping in, sharp eyes, calloused hands. Was she like me, guarding a part of herself? The questions built, soft pressure in my chest. By week 5, the plans took shape. Curved beds for natives, a privacy hedge along the road. We pored over them on the porch one afternoon, her chair pulled close. "This fence," I said, tracing the line. "It'll screen the view. Keep things yours." She hummed agreement, her knee brushing mine accidentally. Warmth spread, unbidden. I shifted, focusing on the paper, but the air felt thicker. Then came the spark. Measuring a back corner near the river, the heat pressing down, I stretched the tape across uneven ground. Harlan held the end, steadying it against a stump. Our arms aligned, and as I pulled taut, her sleeve caught. Fabric, whispering against my skin. The brush was brief, her arm firm under the flannel, but it ignited something. Heat flushed through me, heart skipping. She didn't pull away immediately, eyes meeting mine for a beat too long. The tape snapped back, measurement forgotten. That touch lingered, a quiet fire, blurring lines I'd drawn so carefully. The heat wave hit like a wall the following week, air thick and shimmering over the yard. I'd arrived early, thermos sweating in my hand, but the sun already scorched the ground. Harlan was out by the river bend when I pulled up, her figure blurred in the haze, hauling something heavy from the water's edge. I wiped my brow, unloaded stakes and mallet, the metal hot under my palms. We were adjusting the back stakes today, marking the hidden corner where the slope dropped sharp. My shirt clung damp, sleeves rolled to elbows, skin prickling. She approached as I drove the first stake, boots kicking dust. "River's low," she said, voice cutting the hum of insects. "Makes moving rocks easier." Her flannel was unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves pushed high against the burn. We worked side by side, me hammering, her holding the line taut. Sweat traced paths down her neck, darkening the fabric. The proximity felt closer than before, our shadows overlapping on the parched earth. I could smell the silt on her now, fresh from the bend, mixed with her skin's salt. One stake wouldn't hold, the ground too baked, resisting the point. Need a base, I muttered, eyeing a flat rock nearby, half buried in gravel. It was wide, stubborn, wedged deep. Harlan knelt without a word, fingers digging into the dirt around it. Here, she grunted, gripping the edge. I joined her, our knees pressing into the warm soil, hands overlapping on the rough surface. The rock shifted, slow, stubborn as the heat itself. We rocked it together, muscles straining, breaths sinking in the heavy air. As it loosened, her shirt shifted, sleeve riding up her forearm with the pull. That's when it emerged fully. The tattoo, faded but clear in the sunlight. Intertwined vines curling around two symbols, like linked hearts or roots, intimate in their weave. Ink blurred at the edges, years old, telling a story in silence. My hands froze on the rock, eyes locked there. It wasn't just ink. It was hers, hidden under flannel and routine, a mark of something deep. She yanked her arm back sharp, rock thudding forgotten. The sleeve dropped, covering it quick, but the damage was done. Her eyes flashed. Vulnerability raw, like a crack in stone. No anger, just a guard slamming down, cheeks flushing under the tan. She stood abrupt, brushing dirt from her jeans, gaze fixed on the river. The air between us thickened, heavier than the heat, questions piling unspoken in my throat. Who inked that? What loss or love etched it there? Empathy surged, hot in my chest, mirroring the pull I'd felt since that brush. She wasn't just reclusive. She carried weight, hidden like the river's silt under calm water. I froze too, mallet limp in my hand, heart thudding against ribs. The yard seemed smaller, our shared sweat a bridge I hadn't asked for. Sorry, I whispered, voice small. She didn't respond, just stared at the bend, jaw tight. The silence stretched awkward, insects buzzing louder, sun unrelenting. I wanted to ask, to touch that vulnerability, but words stuck. Instead, I stood, wiping hands on my shorts, the rock half moved between us. Minutes passed, tension coiling. Then she turned, eyes softer at the edges. Iced tea inside, she said, low, not quite an invitation. Before we finish. I nodded, following her to the house, porch steps creaking underfoot. The kitchen was cool, shaded, a pitcher sweating on the counter. She poured 2 glasses, ice clinking, handing me one with steady hands. We sat at the scarred table, the tattoo's shadow lingering. That ink, I started gentle, sipping the sharp cold. She traced the glass rim, pause heavy. For the first time, words flowed real, hints of a past, a woman gone, symbols, their quiet vow. The conversation cracked open, heat wave forgotten, pulling me deeper into her world. That iced tea conversation lingered like the cool in my throat, easing the heat, but not the questions. Harlan didn't spill everything, just enough. The tattoo marked a promise to someone long gone, vines for roots they'd tried to plant together. Her voice cracked once, eyes on the window, river glinting far off. I listened, glass sweating in my hand, empathy twisting tight in my chest. We finished the steaks after, rock settled, but the air hummed different, closer. I drove home replaying her words, the faded ink a ghost between us. The weeks blurred into rhythm again, but sharper now. I'd arrive with updated plans, rolls of blueprints under my arm, the gravel road a familiar rattle. Harlan met me at the porch less often, joining me in the yard instead. Natives here, I'd say, unrolling paper on a flat stump, pointing to sketches of sagebrush and wild rye. They'll hold the soil, draw pollinators without fuss. She'd crouch beside me, flannel brushing my knee, studying the lines. Privacy fence along that edge, she suggested one morning, finger tracing the road border. Something thick, no prying eyes. Her voice held that low warmth, sharing bits of the property's history, how the land came from her family, floods carving it deep, isolation a choice after loss. She lingered longer each time, no longer retreating to the porch. We'd walk the beds, her steps syncing with mine, discussing heights for the hedge, how it could screen the house like arms folded tight. The sun baked us, sweat tracing my spine, but her presence cooled it somehow. One afternoon, under the oak's dappled shade, we pored over a blueprint spread on the grass. "This curve here," I said, leaning in. "It follows the slope natural." My hand moved to mark it, hers reaching the same spot. Fingers touched, hers calloused, warm from the earth, mine soft from city pens. The jolt hit quick, electricity under skin, warmth spreading up my arm. I didn't pull away first. She did, slow, eyes flicking to mine, a question unspoken. That touch replayed nights in my apartment, blueprints scattered on the bed, her hands grit against my palm. I fought it, hard. She was the client, boundaries clear in my contract, ethics drilled in school. Attraction blurred them, pulling me toward her guarded world. But I reminded myself, this was work, reshaping dirt, not hearts. Yet the struggle gnawed, desire coiling low when I'd catch her watching me hammer a stake, sharp eyes softening. Back home, the city's noise felt hollow, my hidden self stirring. Queer longings I'd tucked away for focus, now echoing her isolation. Was this mutual, or just my projection? Her empathy showed in small gestures, guarded but real. Mid-morning heat one day, as I measured a fence line, throat parched, she appeared with a jug of water, condensation beating cold. "Drink," she said, pouring into my cupped hands, her fingers steady on the handle. No fuss, just that quiet care, eyes holding mine a beat too long. It thawed something in me, validating the pull without words. Another time, sketching near the river, wind whipping paper, she knelt to weigh it down with a stone, her shoulder pressing mine brief. "Steady now," she murmured, voice like silt settling. I nodded, heart thudding, the empathy mutual. Her seeing my city strain, offering anchors in her quiet way. The tension built steady, like clouds gathering distant. Subtle shifts piled. Her sharing how the river flooded once, washing out fences, voice warming with memory. Me suggesting plants that echoed her tattoo's vines, watching her nod approval. Physical jolts came unbidden, brushing arms over a map, her knee against mine on the porch steps. Each one lingered, warmth seeping deeper, my internal fight raging. Professional role screamed stop, but the attraction won ground, her world drawing me in. I questioned it all, nights alone, hands replaying touches, wondering if she felt the same under her guard. Then the sky darkened one late afternoon, heat breaking with a rumble far off. We'd been discussing the final fence posts, blueprint between us on the porch table, her hand near mine again. Thunder rolled low, wind stirring dust. "Storm coming," she said, glancing up, eyes meeting mine with that new intensity. "Better inside, barn's dry." I followed her across the yard, barriers thinning as rain spat first drops, pulling us closer than plans ever had. The first drops hit like cold fingers on my skin as we crossed the yard, Harlan leading the way to the barn. Wind whipped the grasses, carrying the sharp tang of coming rain. The porch blueprint lay forgotten, curling at the edges. I grabbed my satchel with the sketches, heart quickening under the darkening sky. She pushed open the barn door, hinges groaning low, and we slipped inside just as the downpour unleashed. Sheets of water hammered the tin roof, a relentless drum that sealed us in. Dust motes swirled in the dim light filtering through cracks. The air already shifting, thick with petrichor, that deep earth scent rising from the soaked ground outside. Harlan lit a lantern on a rough workbench, the flame flickering yellow, casting shadows across stacked hay bales and rusted tools. "Dry enough here," she said, voice steady over the roar. I nodded, spreading the sketches flat, pins holding them against the wood. We bent over them close, shoulders nearly touching, the storm's fury making the world outside feel miles away. "This hedge line," I started, tracing the curve with my finger. "It'll break the wind from the river." My voice sounded small against the rain's beat. She leaned in, her flannel sleeve brushing my arm again, that familiar warmth, now amplified in the close space. "Good," she murmured. "Need that barrier." The lantern light caught her profile, softening the sharp lines of her face, eyes reflecting the glow. We reviewed the plans slow, pointing out adjustments, the native grasses for erosion, a path winding to the bend. But the words felt secondary, the storm pulling focus inward. Conversation deepened as thunder rumbled distant. She straightened, rubbing her forearm absently, the tattoo hidden but present in my mind. "Storms like this used to flood the lower field," she said, voice cracking slight on the last word. I looked up, the lantern's flicker dancing in her eyes. "Lost crops once. And more." The pause hung heavy, rain drumming harder, air thick with the scent of wet wood and silt carried in on the wind. She turned away, gaze on a shadowed corner where old saddles hung, dust clinging to leather. I waited, the petrichor grounding me, mixing with the faint must of hay. "More?" I echoed soft, not pushing, just opening the door. She exhaled slow, like releasing a held breath. "My partner, Elena. We built a life here after the city. Thought the land would hold us." Her voice cracked again, raw, the storm mirroring the break. Pain surfaced in the lines around her mouth, eyes distant. "Flood took her one night, swept a truck off the road. Symbols on my arm, ours. Vines for what we rooted. Faded now, like the promise." Empathy hit me hard, chest tightening. The tattoo's story unfolded, intimate in the lantern light. Her old love a ghost in the rain's rhythm. I reached out, hand hovering near hers on the bench, not touching. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "That loss, it marks everything." She met my eyes, vulnerability bare, no guard. The air felt charged, petrichor thick, our breaths syncing with the downpour's pulse. The words pulled my own out. "City life's a different flood," I confessed, voice low. "Deadlines drown you, apartments echo empty. I've hidden parts of me, queer heart, seeking roots that stick. Came here for work, but it's more. You're quiet, it calls to that." Tears pricked my eyes, the storm's drum fading to background. She nodded, hand shifting closer, fingers brushing mine, brief, warm, calloused, real. "Roots take time," she said, voice steadying. "But they grow if you let them." We sat there, sketches forgotten, rain easing to a steady patter. The lantern burned low, shadows lengthening. Her story hung between us, pain shared, my confession a bridge. Outside, the world washed clean, but emotional clouds gathered thicker, pull stronger, desire coiling under the vulnerability. As thunder rolled final, she stood, extinguishing the light. "Storm's passing," she said, door creaking open to damp air. I followed, heart heavy with unspoken promises, the yard glistening, our worlds entwined deeper. The days after the storm carried a fresh dampness, the yard softening under tentative green shoots. I pushed the boundaries gentle, testing the new ground between us. Arriving one morning with sample packets of seeds, I found Harlan by the river bend, knees in the mud, pulling weeds from the bank. "Flowers for the beds," I called, holding up the packets. "Yarrow, coneflower, natives that bloom wild. Your input?" She wiped her hands on her jeans, rising slow, eyes curious under the brim of her hat. We sat on the porch steps, packets spread between us like offerings. She picked through them, fingers lingering on the yarrow. "These remind me of Elena's garden," she said, voice low, opening slight. A crack in the guard, sharing how those flowers thrived in the silt after floods. I nodded, sketching notes, her words warming the air like sun on wet earth. It felt like progress, her softening edges drawing me closer. But setbacks came quick, rebuilding tension like clouds were forming. Midweek, as I mapped the flower beds, staking outlines in the warming soil, Harlan's phone rang from the house, sharp, insistent. She stepped inside to answer, door half open, but her voice carried, edged with strain. "No, I told you, the land stays mine, no selling." A pause, then sharper. "Family or not, you don't get to decide." The call ended abrupt, screen slamming on the table inside. She emerged, face closed tight, eyes avoiding mine. "Continue without me," she said, clipped, retreating to the vegetable patch out back. I hammered steaks alone, the mallet's thud echoing my chest's ache. Her withdrawal hit hard, walls slamming up after the storm's vulnerability. Questions swirled. Family pressure on her isolation? It rebuilt the distance, my pushes feeling foolish, desire coiling frustrated under professional skin. I tried closeness another way. Anonymous, small. That evening, before leaving, I plucked a wildflower from the roadside. A single purple aster, sturdy in the breeze. I tucked it into the porch crevice where she hung her hat. Out of sight, but sure to be found. No note, just the gesture. Like the touches we'd shared. Driving away, heart light but guilty, I wondered if it crossed lines. Nights replayed it all. The brush of her hand in the barn, the warmth of her voice on Elena. Back in my city apartment, walls pressing close, I'd pace, fingers tracing air where hers had been. Desire escalated, hot under my skin, questioning everything. Was this professionalism, or me chasing roots in her silt? Sleep came fitful, dreams of vines intertwining, her tattoo fading into my own unmarked arm. She found it the next visit. Harlan was on the porch when I arrived, the aster in her palm, twirling slow. Her eyes met mine, softer than before, a question in the lines around them. "This from the road?" she asked, voice gentle, no accusation. I nodded, throat tight, unloading tools to hide the flush. Thought it fit the beds. Wild, resilient. She softened further, tucking the flower into her shirt pocket, the purple peeking like a secret. "Resilient," she echoed, stepping down to join me. We worked the flower outlines together, her suggestions flowing easier. More asters along the fence, echoing the river's edge. But the questions lingered in her glances, probing my motives. Was it the yard or her? The air hummed with it, tension easing but not gone, her guard thinning yet watchful. Escalating desire gnawed deeper those weeks, touches replayed endless, her knee against mine on the steps, the callus of her palm in the storm's dark. Professionalism frayed at edges. I'd catch myself sketching not just beds, but her hands in the margins, vines curling around fingers. Nights alone, the city's hum mocking, I'd question it all. Client boundaries blurring into want, my hidden self surfacing raw. Queer longings, buried under city rush, bloomed insistent here, in her quiet pull. Was she feeling it too? That softening a sign? The cycles wore me. Push, withdraw, gesture, question. But each try bound us tighter, desire a root taking hold. Late summer heat built then, air thick and golden, pressing the yard into haze. It brought the decisive measurement session, stakes waiting in the hidden corner, our shadows set to overlap once more. The hidden corner waited like a secret, tucked where the yard dipped toward the river, overgrown with thorny brambles and forgotten stones. Late summer heat wrapped us tight that day, air heavy with the scent of ripening blackberries and sun-baked clay. I arrived with the final tape measure, stakes fresh from the truck, my skin already sticking under the thin shirt. Harlan was there before me, clearing a path with a machete, swings deliberate, sweat darkening her flannel at the back. She glanced up as I approached, eyes holding mine a fraction longer than before. "Last survey," I said, voice low against the hum of bees. She nodded, wiping her brow with the back of her hand, calluses catching the light. We started slow, me uncoiling the tape across the uneven ground, her holding the end steady against a gnarled root. The corner forced us close, the slope steep, brambles snagging our legs. As I stretched to mark a high point, my back pressed to hers, accidental, but firm. Her body heat seeped through the fabric, solid and warm, like the earth itself leaning in. I froze a beat, breath catching, the contact sending a shiver down my spine despite the burn. She didn't shift away. Instead, her shoulder settled against mine, steadying us both as I noted the reading. The air thickened, silt scent rising from her skin, mixed with the sharp tang of sweat. My heart thudded, pulse syncing with the distant river lap. The measurement done, we sank onto a flat rock nearby, tools aside. The corners quiet, amplifying everything. Revelation built natural, words spilling from the heat's haze. That tattoo, I ventured, gaze on her arm where the sleeve had ridden up again, vines peeking faded. She traced it slow, fingers following the curves, eyes distant. Elena inked it with me, back when we first claimed this land. Symbols for our promises, intertwined, unbreakable. She chose the vines, said they'd grow no matter the flood. Her voice softened, memory pulling her under, pain threading the edges like roots exposed. I listened, chest tight, the full story unfolding. Their city escape, building a home here, the accident that stole her one stormy night. She was the light in this quiet, Harlan whispered. Left me with echoes. Tears welled then, mixing with the sweat on her cheeks, tracing salty paths down her neck. The emotional turn hit sharp, her hand trembling as it clasped mine, brief, calloused palm rough against my smoother skin. Warmth spread, grounding, her grip tight, then releasing like a held breath. I squeezed back, empathy surging hot in my throat. Your grief, it's valid, Harlan. It shapes you, doesn't hide you. I've carried my own shadows, city walls closing in, hiding who I am, the woman who loves women, buried under sketches and solitude. Your roots call to that hidden self in me, pulling it out. She met my eyes, tears glistening, no words needed. My validation hung there, shared grief a bridge, her loss mirroring my unspoken fears. Subtext weighed heavy, words unspoken in the glances that lingered. Hers searching, promising safety. Mine offering the same, desire flickering under the surface. Gazes held the weight of what we both felt, the pull towards something real, vines of our own twisting slow. The corner felt smaller, intimate, brambles framing us like a private world. The project neared end that week, beds outlined, fence lines staked. But the nearing finish forced it, confrontation of these feelings, the heat between us demanding air, no longer content in shadows. Presentation day arrived under a clear sky, the late summer sun slanting gold across the yard. The beds were staked final, string lines taut like veins ready to pulse with life. I'd spent nights refining the design, incorporating her symbols, vines curling through the paths, intertwined roots in the layout of the native plants, echoing the tattoo's quiet promise. My truck bed held the rolled blueprints, heavy with more than paper, as I drove the gravel road one last time. Heart thudded low in my chest, a steady drum against ribs. This wasn't just unveiling a garden. It was laying bare the pull between us, the feelings forced to surface now. Harlan waited on the porch, arms loose at her sides, flannel loose over jeans, faded soft. No hat today, her gray-streaked hair catching the light, loose strands framing her face. She nodded as I approached, eyes sharp but open, like the river after rain. Ready? She asked, voice low, carrying that silt-edged warmth. We moved to the flat stump near the river bend, the spot where touches had sparked before. I unrolled the design, slow, pins holding it flat against the wood, the vines sketched bold, symbols woven into every curve. It's yours, I said, tracing the main path. The hedges for privacy, natives to root deep. And here, the vines, like your ink, for what holds, what grows back. She leaned in close, breath steady, her shoulder brushing mine deliberate this time. Fingers followed the lines, callous tips lingering on the symbols, the same motion she'd traced on her arm. Vulnerability peaked then, raw in the sunlight, her hand trembling slight. You saw it all, she whispered, eyes lifting to mine. Not just the yard, me. Elena's gone years, but this place, it's been empty. I built walls higher than any fence. Longing for connection, it scared me. Age, loss, thinking I'd forgotten how. But you dug through the silt, found the roots still there. Her voice cracked, tears pricking the corners of her eyes, the admission hanging thick in the warm air. I felt it echo my own hidden self, the queer desires I'd guarded in city shadows, now blooming insistent here. The world narrowed, sun warming our skin, the river's murmur fading to a hum. My hand covered hers on the blueprint, palm to callus, heat spreading like roots seeking soil. She didn't pull away. Instead, she turned, body shifting toward mine, the space between us closing slow. Physical escalation came natural, her arms opening, pulling me into an embrace under the open sky. Her body pressed firm, flannel soft against my shirt, the scent of earth and silt enveloping me. Heart thudded wild, sinking with hers through the thin barriers of cloth, skin warming where our necks touched, pulse racing hot under my jaw. I wrapped my arms around her waist, fingers splaying across her back, feeling the steady rise of her breath. Our faces drew close, breaths mingling, her eyes searching mine, guarded no more, just need, raw and real. Lips brushed tentative, a feather touch at first, testing the edge. Soft, warm, tasting of salt from the day's heat, and something deeper, like the petrichor after storms we'd shared. The kiss deepened slight, her hand cupping my cheek, thumb stroking my jaw, sending shivers down my spine despite the sun's burn. Desire coiled tight, world narrowing further to this point, her mouth yielding, mine pressing back, the vines of us intertwining at last. We pulled apart enough to breathe, foreheads resting together, heart still thudding loud in the quiet. Conflict resolution settled heavy, words forming in the space. Ages apart, I murmured, hand tracing her arm to the tattoo's edge, feeling the faded ink under my fingers. Your past with Elena, my city ghosts, we carry them. But this present, it's ours if we choose. She nodded against me, eyes closing brief, vulnerability giving way to resolve. Pasts shape, don't chain, she said, voice steady now. You're younger, from elsewhere, but you see me. I see you, the woman under the sketches, hidden no more. Choose it, Eliana. Stay beyond the job. The embrace held, sunlight filtering through the oaks, casting dappled patterns on us like new growth. We pulled back slow, hands lingering, commitment forming in those quiet words. No grand promises, just the truth of roots taking hold. The design lay between us, symbols alive now, the yard waiting to bloom. But the pull had crossed every line, leaving only the path forward, open and real. The blueprints stayed pinned to the stump that afternoon, but we didn't linger on them. Harlan's hand slipped into mine as we walked the staked paths, her calluses rough against my palm, grounding me in the sun's warmth. The project shifted from paper to soil the next week, implementation starting simple, digging the first beds together. I arrived with seedlings and tools, the gravel road smoother now in my mind, less a barrier. She met me at the gate, sleeves rolled, a shovel leaning against the porch. No words at first, just shared glances, the commitment from yesterday humming quiet between us. We knelt side by side in the south-facing bed, hands plunging into the loamy earth, cool and yielding after a night of dew. I pressed lavender starts into the holes I'd dug, roots spreading tentative like our own. Harlan packed the soil around them, her fingers brushing mine deliberate, dirt smearing our skin. The scent rose sharp, fresh turned earth, mingled with the faint silt on her arms from mourning by the river. Sweat beaded on my forehead, trickling down, but her presence eased the burn. "These'll take," she said, voice low, patting the ground firm. "Like us." I nodded, heart steadying in the rhythm of our work, the queer desires I'd hidden now validated in this shared labor. No judgment, just acceptance blooming slow. Days blurred into weeks of planting, the yard transforming under our hands. We lined the privacy fence with wild rye, seeds scattered from shared pouches, her laughter rare but real when a gust scattered them wild. "Let them root where they fall," she murmured, eyes meeting mine, hinting at futures beyond client lines. Talks came easy now, over breaks on the porch, iced tea sweating between us. "Stay after this," she said one evening, gaze on the river bend. "Build more than beds. A life here, with me." No more reclusion. Your city's rush doesn't have to pull you back. Her words carried weight, overcoming the blocks we'd carried. Her isolation cracking open, my instability finding anchor in this land, in her. I leaned into her shoulder, the flannel warm, whispering agreement. Roots together, queer and real, no hiding. Her reclusion faded gradual, like mist off the river. Neighbors I'd never seen appeared once, dropping off preserves. Harlan introducing me with a hand on my back, possessive, proud. The house felt less guarded. Windows open to the breeze, evenings filled with her stories of Elena completing the circle. One dusk, after planting the final vine along the path, symbols etched in green echoing her tattoo, we washed up at the outdoor spigot, water cold on our skin. She'd like this, Harlan said, tracing the ink on her arm, now bared without shame. You seeing it all, bringing light back. I covered her hand with mine, the faded lines a map we'd both follow now. Emotional payoff settled deep that night, an evening walk along the river. The air cooled, petrichor faint from an earlier sprinkle, our steps sinking on the gravel path. Fireflies blinked in the grasses, mirroring the sparks we'd ignited. I felt seen, my desires validated, no longer buried under city masks, but alive here in her quiet strength. She stopped at the bend, turning to me, arms pulling me close. The kiss was deeper this time, unhurried, her lips tasting of earth and promise, hands framing my face. Stability rooted in me then, her reclusion a shared shelter now, blocks overcome in the press of her body against mine. We faded into the ongoing rhythm after, seasons turning with the garden. Mornings planting side by side, afternoons walking the paths, vines climbing true. The story lingered open, our love unexpected but grounding, roots intertwining beyond the yard's edges. Our hands intertwined amid the blooming garden, vines curling strong around the symbols we'd planted together. The pull of this unexpected love grounded us both, roots deep in shared soil. If this resonated, subscribe for more authentic queer stories. Share your moments in the comments.